Okay, good morning, brothers and sisters. This video is going to be for those who haven't been watching any of my other videos or following along. They think watching maybe two or three is going to do it, but we've been immersed in these studies for a very long time, and it does take some time to be able to figure out what's going on in the Old Testament. I think all of us Christians, will say, yeah, you pick up the Old Testament, you simply don't understand it. What we understand was understanding what made up God worship look like in the Old Testament. And so that brought us to one God in particular who was under many other names, and that was Baal. So if you haven't bothered to watch any of my other videos, or you've pulled up two or three, this is going to be a simplified version, perhaps, of what we've come to understand. Of course, there's a lot of other things that we studied and pulled up, things that I've forgotten that we even looked up, because there's just so many subjects and topics, and yet they all weave together the same story. And that same story gets told to us in the little book that is sealed up that you'll find referenced in the New Testament. Yes, we'll even use some of the New Testament, though we've established the fact that it was the feet of the idol that got this male image of a male God standing that you are not to be found worshiping. God says you were to create neither male nor female, right? And yet that's what they were found doing, because God is a God of fairness, truth, and equity, not a God of preferential treatment to one sex over the other. Both were equal in God's eyes. And we see the slow destruction of the female rights and the idea of her divinity being completely erased from all of our knowledge. But yet the Old Testament holds within its words this little thread of truth, which is then found as a little book sealed up, which is found in the angel's hand standing on land and sea. And it is a female angel. Now, these are the narratives that get spun out into the world, right? But yet, because they have come together under this banner of truth that we are now waving, I have to believe there's something to that angel, that the spirit behind what we have discovered is an authentic spirit, a real spirit, because it has been weaved together into the truth that now we just simply understand it, or at least I do. I mean, I suspect many of you do as well. You may have a slightly different narrative or take on it, and that's fine, but the end result is going to be the same conclusion, right, to that. So we're going to take a look at a verse and hopefully simplify it and break it down. For those of you who thinks that watching one video is just going to, wisen you up to all the things that we have learned, and it has took us, I began over 14 years ago, but we've had the channels up and running for a little over 7. So, and some of these ladies, I don't know about the men, I just know that some of these ladies have been here since the very beginning. They have told me that. We have been with you from the onset of the Ruth Abbey channel, and we have slowly come through the climb with you. And so that's the prerequisite, really, is this hard climb. And that's your allegory of the she-goat, who is also the scapegoat, became the scapegoat, which is going to take us to the passage that we're about to look at, okay? So let's see if we can't get to it. This passage is going to be found in, hopefully, I'm just going to do this mostly from memory. Okay, now 46:2. And we'll begin in verse 1. I just wanted to move it up to the oh, there we go. Now let's move it. Just wanted to move this up to the top. Hopefully it's not interfering with my camera when I just do that. I'm just scrolling to the top of the page. It's found Isaiah 46:2. But we'll start in verse 1. Bel. We all know what Bel is on this channel, don't we? I say it wrong. I often, every video I'll say Bel, 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 okay? but apparently the proper pronunciation is Baal. But I stated that I'm going to say Baal because that's just what I'm going to do. So it's Baal, which is Baal, another name for your husband, who is an Old Testament god that goes under multiple names, okay? Multiple names. Marduk is one of the names that he goes under, but he goes under other ones as well. Once you break down what they were doing, the golden calf idol that they were found bowing to in the Exodus also come to be known as Baal, standing as your Lord and God, which when we go to the Strong's Hebrew 1168, this is going to be your Phoenician, uh, Babylonian god Baal, which is Baal. You backtrack when you're going to find out it's going to be a name for your husband. It's also the name of some kings in the Old Testament. They're always going to be known as Baal, this idol Baal, because we know what the kings were looking for. They were looking for self worship. That's what they were looking for. And we were warned about what that was going to lead to. So, verse 1, Babylon's idols. Bel crouches. Nebu cowers. Who's Nebu? Nebu is Nebuchadnezzar. Some will say Nimrod as well, right? So this is some clarification that we had to look in. We had to clarify what it was, which was the truth. Was it Nebuchadnezzar? Was it a name for Nebuchadnezzar? Was it a name for Nimrod? Which was it? Because when you pull it up, it's going to tell you that. And so when we studied the Tower of Babel, what we come to realize is that the Hebrews believes that Nebuchadnezzar, King Nebuchadnezzar, was actually the reincarnation of Nimrod, right? Nimrod. Nimrud is oftentimes how they'll spell it. So when you pull Nebu up, you're going to find that comparison is going to be in there. It's either Nimrod or Nebuchadnezzar. And so that's the name of those kings. So Bel crouches. Nebu cowers. Who is actually crouching? Bel, husband, is crouching. Nebu cowers. Nebuchadnezzar is cowering, or Nimrod is cowering, the creators of this male idol. Their idols weigh down beasts and cattle. We also did a video on the beasts and cattle here. They are female. She is the one actually carrying the burden of male idols. Now, what that means is this world fell to male idol worship. And I'm briefly going to read you this before we continue on. So the top 4 religions of the world by numbers are as follows. Now, this is what they threw at me. Okay, this is the information it threw at me. Sometimes you'll ask it and re-ask it, and it'll throw slightly different information at various people, okay, or even at you. So 1, Christianity, approximately 2.3 billion followers. Number 2, Islam, approximately 1.9 billion followers. 3, Hinduism. Now understand, in those 2 religions, you're going to actually find Judaism. I don't know if that's the official name of the Hebrews or Israelites, supposed Israelites. Worship. It's called Judaism. So within the Christianity and probably Islam as well, I don't really know how that falls in there, would be that number of Judaism, because that number is a lot less, because you're talking about one little country, right? So Christianity, 2.3 billion, Islam, 1.9 billion, and 3 is Hinduism, roughly 1.2 billion followers. Buddhism, around 520 million followers. So these religions collectively influence about 6.9 billion people globally. All right, let's look at what they're really telling us here. Christianity follows Father and Son as God, and the Holy Spirit they will refer to more often than not, 99% of the time, as a he. So, 2.3 billion followers are following man as God, male as God. Father and Son gets to write the laws. You think that don't empower them to say God is he? Of course it doesn't. You were warned about doing that. Islam, 1.9 billion followers. Who do they follow? Allah, Muhammad, more males, who tells you horrible things that these males did to females and said, hey, we're allowed to do it because God said we could, because God's he and God favors man. That's basically what they're saying. Same in Christianity. We write the laws. We're your head. We can tell you what to do. It's empowering man. You're not getting it through your thick skulls yet, are we? 3, Hinduism, roughly 1.2 billion, and Buddhism, roughly 520 billion. Who do they follow? Well, they follow gods like both Hinduism and Buddhism have a rich tradition of worshiping deities, but the nature and number of deities can differ significantly. Hinduism often includes a vast array of deities such as Brahma. Now, forgive me for saying wrong, but I'm gonna. Brahma, a male creator, he. Vishnu, I forget what Vishnu, but he. Again, Shiva, oh yeah, he. I looked these all up. They're all males. They can say deities all they want, throw in occasional little female. Okay, right here. I did. Brahma is the creator responsible for the birth of the universe. Get that word birth in there. You get the feeling when the creator speaks in the Old Testament and she's angry and she says, you stole my image. That says the creator, the one that gives life and births. That is so a female speaking. They can stick he in the Old Testament all they want. They stole her image as the one that births the universe and creates life. That's woman. Now that's for your very eyes to bear witness to. She gives life, not he. She travails, she bleeds to bring life into existence, and she's the one that puts the breath into them as well when she births them. Yeah, she does. Or it's not there, right? Now, Brahma is the creator responsible for the birth of the universe and all living things. He is often depicted with 4 arms, and he is associated with wisdom and knowledge. Really? Stealing somebody's image there, are we? Just a little bit there, boys. Vishnu is the preserver who maintains cosmic order and ensures the sustenance of life. He is known for his numerous avatars, including Rama and Krishna, and is often depicted resting on a serpent. Yeah, her throne, the wise women, right? Which is the scepter wrapped around the pole that the men that got stung by the women that Balaam and Balak sent in to poison the men so they could take out the right hand of God, which were the women inside the nation of Israel called the daughter of Zion, which is also why Jacob is found wrestling with the presence of God or the angel of the Lord, known as the presence of God or the camp of Mahanaim, which was female, the daughters of Zion. We proved that through the word. We looked it up. This group is also with the Shulamite, these women. And Jacob's name means usurper or yeah, he's the supplanter. And what he did is he stole her birthright. He stole her name. And he claims he is Israel when it was her, the woman's seed, who was real Israel. Okay? So Vishnu is the preserver order and issues the sustenance of life. He's known. Okay. Shiva is the destroyer, representing transformation and regeneration. He is known for his matted hair and is often depicted with a crescent moon on his forehead. These deities work together to uphold the cycle of creation, preservation, destruction in Hindu cosmology. 6.9 billion, almost 7 billion people in this world worship males as gods. And you don't see how that empowered man to do what he is doing to womankind. You don't get when mother says, I promise you, when you tear your own house down and you build his up and you hand all of your goods over to him, you will be shocked at what he will do to you. Don't get it? The laws that you're carrying, you're the scapegoat for it all. That's why the word for the scapegoat is female. That's right. I can't remember it now. I didn't go in and recap that. So we're going back to look at this, right? We get what's going on. We get what's going on. So Baal, in that little book, is identifying the truth that we were to live by, that God's children are equal, that none are held in higher regard and esteem as a head over the other. You get it? What you were supposed to do, once we worked this all out through much study and hard work, and looking up each and every individual word in many of the verses that the Spirit led us to, brought us back to the understanding that man, see, and I lost my train of thought there, that man was working to remove the daughter of Zion, who, okay, back to it, that the daughter of Zion was the one that you were to receive the law off of her tongue. And man was to enforce that law, and we don't mean like the enforcers, which is the idea we get, but that he was to live by those laws. He had took that, her law, in agreement and in covenant, which is why we get Adam the accuser. And we know it's husband who accused her. We go to passages like in Job, and now I can't remember the particular passage that we found it in. I often say 26, but I don't think it's Job 26. But it says, had my accuser written his accusations in a book, I would wear it like a crown upon my head. We did a video on that. We did 2 or 3 videos on that. And when you look up the word for accuser there, it means husband. Well, you're only a husband to who? To a woman. So if we go back to the very beginning, who accused who? The man accused the woman. Who was the real serpent in the garden there, if it was not Adam? Adam was the snake. And he knew that to accuse her was going to get him her house out of her womb, the Creator's womb, which is a repetitive story that gets told to us often throughout the Old Testament, such as when Jacob wrestles the angel of the Lord, identified as the daughter of Zion herself. And he does so usurp authority. He does so steal her birthright. This is about her birthright and him taking control of what rightfully belonged to her. We're going to come up with an antichrist. An antichrist is actually the same as an antinomian. The antichrist is male, who was against her, the anointed one, which was daughter Zion's right to give the law over the host that comes out of her own womb. And the antinomian tells us that that's against her law. Nomian is law. Nomia is law or lawlessness. In this case, the Antichrist created lawlessness in the land. So what is the mystery of lawlessness in the land? Okay? The boys on the pulpit are not addressing any of these questions. They're just fickle-minded and they address them in a simple little way, but they never really go in and look at it. You know why? Because they're cowardly. They're afraid they're going to have to give up their power, and baby, they like it. They like man being the all-powerful one. 6.9 billion in male idol worship. God says you are to have no other God before thee. You are to have the God of truth before you. The one who spoke the truth, the one who come to give you law, that was from wisdom's tongue. We also get the idea of the Godhead as being female and male. But the female is first because she is to be held in high regard because she is the creator of life. Without holding her in high regard, and I don't mean to worship, God says, you are not to worship the daughter of Zion, but you were to hold her in high regard and you were to exalt her law because her law comes from me, the mother creator of all things. Now she cut that off to us when she shut the gates off. When we fell to male idol worship, the gates got shut off to us. We are not permitted to travel into the heavens anymore. We're not, which, we view as there's the first, second, third heaven, right? So the gates got shut off to us because the women had slowly turned away after they were struck and go back through. You're going to have to figure out how to put this into the entire encapsulation of that little book because we've been through it all. We have, but I cannot give it all to you. But those gates got shut off to us. We know that it's to do with the heavens because when you go to Obadiah 1, it says he travels amongst the stars. He who? Well, it's either it can be the first Adam going under the names of Nimrod, King Solomon, Sennacherib, and Nebuchadnezzar, sorry. So those four all clearly had thrones, and that they were looking for worship from all others, especially the females, who would hand over their hosts, which is why we get King Solomon marrying the many women and taking in this wrong covenant. Yeah, not the covenant he was supposed to be in. He was supposed to be in covenant with the key of David, not the key of Solomon, his own key. So the abomination of desolation takes us back to the idea of man being in love with himself. He worships himself as God. He wasn't to worship himself as God. He wasn't even to worship her as God. He was, however, to hold her in high regard and deep respect. And that meant following her laws that came off of her tongue when she was sent from heaven above to give man the law because he agreed in covenant. Now that's according to Job. We go to Job. He says, I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? For what portion of God is there from above? The inheritance of the Almighty from on high. So the inheritance that mother sent to the man in covenant was her daughter. And it was to give man the law. Then we see he accused me. Oh, that my accuser had written his accusations in a book. The accuser there, the word there is man. Who got accused in the beginning if it was not the first woman? She was accused by that dragon, by that serpent, by that devil called Adam, Beelzebub. All right? When we go to the Christians' New Testament, and we go to the Strong's Greek, Baal Zebub. Baal means your husband. Zebub means flies. The reason why we got the word Zebub is because it's going to take us to the true meaning of the word Baal in the Old Testament. That God means the Lord of dung. All right? So it's saying your husband, who is the Lord of dung, has many followers. Like, we got these flies around the dung following his load of poop, right? 6.9 billion of us in Baal idol worship. Beelzebub, according to Strong's Greek, is another name for Satan the accuser. Follow it out. So, what's Isaiah 46:2 all about? Baal crouches. Nebuchadnezzar, Nimrod, cowers. Their idols weigh down the beasts and cattle. That's the women, the she-goat, the scapegoat, right? We've studied it. The images you carry are burdensome, a load to the weary animals. We are weary of carrying this idea that we women must bow and submit to man because he's the godlike entity on earth. You're not getting it? You're not getting it. I've watched many women come out of all these cult-like religions, and you know what? They still say he God. They still ain't got what the cult has really done to their mind. It has shaped this image of male God in your head. He. And by extension, you're going to revere him more than you would any other person, woman. Yeah. And that's exactly what women do. They can't get away from the he pronoun. We've had it hammered in us for thousands of years now after that accusation and the striking of our heel. The woman stumbled. We get that she stumbled, but that she recovers, that she does stand up and she does obtain her host. So it means to obtain her host. When we go to Romans, we did a study on Romans 11 as well. Those who have not bowed their knee to the image of Baal, to the image of bridegroom as Lord and God and Master and Creator of everything, and birth life and died and travailed and all that, because women don't do that in this kingdom. You're not supposed to use your eyes. You're not supposed to use your mind. You're not supposed to use wisdom. You're not supposed to listen. No, you're not supposed to do anything. You're supposed to sit there in the ditch that you're in. Yeah. And not even think about getting out of there, or just how smart and clever Satan, Lucifer, that little devil is. Got you worshiping him. Yeah. And you carrying all these yokes, laws on your neck that he has never had to carry because he made an idol. Daniel 2. All the kings and kingdoms, every successive kingdom built upon this male gold statue. Look at the previous videos, you'll see how it worked. And built up a male idol and tore her house down out of the land so he could yoke her and steal the house out of her womb. So then we come back to the idea of man's pride because it is Adam's pride. Man. Adam's another name for man. Man and his pride over the woman. And the more you think about it, because when you're a child and you're raised up in this religion of, man is your head, man is God, Father and Son is God, you're not taught to see the arrogance in it. You're not taught to see the pride in it. You're taught to go, if you don't understand this, it's because you're wicked, right? That's what they hammer at you. And so it's just about impossible to see the wickedness of how much pride and arrogance it actually takes him to say, when he looks at you, that he's your head and that Father and Son is God. It's so difficult for you to see the pride and arrogance that takes for him to say. He don't even know how arrogant and proud and boastful. I'm your head woman, you better listen to me. And think they're righteous for saying it. That is arrogance and pride. That's what that is. It takes a lot of arrogance and pride to think that you have the right to control her. It does. That's Satan, the accuser, man, the accuser, Adam, the accuser. Beelzebub is a name in the New Testament, Strong's Greek, for the devil, for Satan, for Adam, for man, the accuser. And we were able to trace that through the word Baal. Baal. Bel crouches, Nebu cowers. Their idols weigh down the beasts, the women and cattle, because they're the power. So in the New Testament, it says have nothing to do with those who have a form of godliness. The Christians, especially the males, you get a lot of women too. Sorry, it's about equal there. Who I lost my train of thought again. Who just they can't. They're so arrogant. They just can't see it any other way because they've been so hammered and brainwashed that this muscle in their arm makes them God. And it is not the power in their arm that makes them God, although we did a study on that verse in the Old Testament. The God that they worship is the power in their arm. That's not God. That was never God. But it says having a form of godliness. There, I'll go back to it. And denying the power thereof. You see the power here? It's the women carrying the burden. And the burden largely, other than these male idols weighing her down, has the idea that she's birthing her children. That's the burden, that she's birthing her children. But she has not delivered them into the truth. That takes us to the verse found in Isaiah 26. We have been in pain. We have, as it were, brought forth wind. We have not wrought a deliverance in the earth. That is the women who is the power to deliver the children into the truth. That's what that's saying, because the word wind in Isaiah 26, we have said this for the last 7 years. You're not going to find your allegorical representation of wind with your word there, which is going to be Spirit 7307, I think. I can't remember it. You're not going to find your allegory there or your figurative. It won't give it. You actually have to go to the Strong's Greek 417 to find the figurative understanding of the word wind. And that word wind means empty doctrines. You are trying to birth them through by saying, He, God, Father, and Son, made everything and gave life to everything. No, you have not wrought a deliverance in the earth. It's only the women who deliver children into life, not man. Why now do I see every man standing around with his hands on his hips as if he can give life like her? He can't. But yet you got those proud and boastful men, Beelzebub, Lucifer, claiming to be the light of the world. He was a real serpent, a real dog in the garden to the woman. After he agreed to take her law and covenant over her own host, that she travails to bring forth. No man travails to bring forth children. It is the woman that does that. She bleeds and she suffers, and in many instances, she even dies to bring them forth. So he took that whole image over. The men now have this form of godliness to them, and the women have that, but they deny the power of the Creator, which is she, the woman. So that's why the images you carry are burdensome and a load to the weary animals. So we also get, for another image of that, the jackass that carried Balaam, right? Balaam is plural of Baal, right? And he was the one who Balak said to Balaam, actually, Balaam said to Balak, who wanted to curse the nation of Israel, who had grown in massive numbers under the rulership and law of the women, the daughter of Zion, inside the nation of Israel. When they looked out over this great number from the cliffs there, Balaam and Balak, and Balak got mad, and he said, I paid you to curse this people, but nothing has happened. So Balaam says, okay, I can't curse them, but I can do this. Go get your women. Go get your women. See, this was the dividing of the pleasant land that already knows your laws, are already encumbered by your laws, are already submissive to man's laws. Go get those women. Send them into the men in the camp of the Israelites, and we will create a division this way. And soon the men in the camp will recognize how great and glorious Adam's law is for them, and how horrible it is for them to have to follow a woman's law, though he agreed to it. And look at their numbers. They had grown massively, so massively that Balak was terrified of them. Terrified of them. And so they go in and they take the right hand. That's what the daughter of Zion is called, the right hand of God. It's not Jesus. He's not sitting on the right hand, right? That was always intended for her. That position of authority and power over the law, over her host, over her creation, was directly gave from the Creator, which was wisdom herself. Now, I'm not saying that Father ain't there, but if there's Father there, then Father is exalting the female or the mother who is actually the creator of the entire kingdom. So, in her position of authority, when this man struck the woman here and caused her to stumble and turn away from the truth of the mother's law, the gates then get shut off to us. And we're told that in Job, 38? It's one of those chapters. So we're going into the deep dive here. But we also did a deep dive into the chapter Jeremiah 23, and we saw how they were turning to Baal worship in that chapter alone, and they turned to the he pronoun. God says, you saw no image of me, you make no image of me. And yet we're all so fickle here in the end. 6.9 billion says he for God. That is the first commandment, and you are violating it. Forget about all the rest. You have already violated commandment number 1. You are already under judgment, according to the Bible. And the judgment has been falling on womankind for her bowing to her knees and kissing a male idol's backside, more or less, and handing her children over in the idea of a sacrifice. And you are sacrificing your children because the laws made by man causes death, war, murder, mayhem, chaos, all of these things. And it leads to the sacrifice of your children that were rightfully considered your creation. And as such, you had the right to write the law over your own creation, and his right was to enforce it. Now, that's how the covenant went. When you're going covenant, he, or he, you're talking about the pride of Satan. You're talking about the pride of Adam. And it takes a lot of pride to think that you are somebody else's head. Baby, it takes a lot of pride to go, look, I'm your head. I do your thinking for you. I tell you what you're supposed to do. That don't take pride. That's not arrogance doing that. You better examine yourself when you think that way. You better. So, what does it say? The gods cower. They crouch together, unable to relieve the burden, unable to deliver it. You know why? Why now do I see every man standing around with his hands on his hips as if he can give life? What is the Red Sea allegorized as? The parting of the Red Sea is allegorized as the presence of God, identified as the daughter. It's feminine here. The daughters delivering their children out through the birthing canal, identified from a land of Egypt. The Egypt, she says, Pharaoh, you might eat my waters, right? They bring male idol worship forward, right? The birthing canal is the Red Sea parted. The admixture of lies is your Red Sea allegory. It's also the wine in the cup that you get drunk on and go to sleep in. That's Habakkuk 2, verses 15 and 16, or 3. I think it's 2. He put strong drink to her lip and got her drunk so he could expose her nakedness and look upon it. It's basically saying so he could screw her and steal the house out of her womb and get himself worshipped as God so he could write the law, steal her goods, do what he wanted. And that's basically what's been going on planet Earth because of the violation of commandment number 1. And so they were unable to relieve the burden, but they themselves go into captivity. Now, I watched a lady recently talk about being part of one of these families and that they didn't even know what Baal worship represented. She literally come out and said Baal. That shocked me. I posted her, she's in one of these last 2 or 3 videos, the link to her interview. She actually come right out and she said Baal. They worship Baal, but that they don't really know what it means. They've lost sight of it. So they themselves have gone into captivity. They don't even know what their worshiping idol is about. Well, it was about empowering the boys at the top, who, according to Obadiah 1, does come and go in the heavens. There's a gate there. There's a gate there. And he's the only one that comes and goes through that gate when it was her gate to come and go through, not his. And by stealing the host out of her womb and getting her trapped here under the religious lie, and we've looked at all the watchers and all of that correlation and how that all factors in. And there's more. There's always going to be more that we can look at. But the basis is that we get a growing insurrection from the women. They're sustaining now. They're holding their ground now is the idea in the words that I wrote under the last video. And so that there's a growing opposition to his lies and his laws. And she's got to sustain that growing opposition in order to gain ground is your idea. And so you also get the word wrath, which is female there. You get the word insurrection, which is female there. It's all to do with the women's growing anger. When they wake up and finally realize what's been done to them, right? And they finally take back their host and deliver the inhabitants of this world into the truth that they were supposed to. Now, you're going to have to go to Isaiah 26. You're going to have to use your own brain. You're going to have to actually think here. You're going to actually have to take a lot of time, and it does take a lot of time to actually start to reason and to open your eyes, to open your ears, to get yourself out of the ditch and to use wisdom to do that with. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a growing opposition. This is the phase that we're in right now, this growing opposition, this growing insurrection, this sustained opposition to the lie of the man. Now, that's in those words under my last video. And it is a growing opposition. And when she's able to sustain that opposition, and it's going to take all of us standing, it's going to flip, right? It's going to flip back to the way it was supposed to be. So the gods cower. That's Bel and Nebu. So The first Adam, man, is cowering because he can't deliver the burden into the truth. And Isaiah 46, she says, you made a male idol, but his words are nothing. He cannot speak the truth because the words comes through me and me alone. It is my law that rules, not his. So that's why you get the gods cower, they crouch together, unable to relieve the burden. It is on the women. Because when they delivered the children the first time from the land of idolatry, Egypt, it says, the waters come over, the admixture of lies that he told, come over and covered my pathways, and you no longer saw them. Now, that's a verse in the Old Testament. We looked it up. But the birthing canal is identified as the Red Sea, and it is only the daughters at birth. It is not man. And we know that the presence of God was identified as the feminine aspect inside the nation of Israel, who had the power to part the waters, the admixture of religious lies, and deliver her children out into the truth, not into this lie, right? That'll never deliver us. Listen to me, O house of Jacob. Jacob stole whose name? Her name. And her name was Israel, the woman's seed, the daughters inside the nation of Israel. All the remnant of the house of Israel. There we go. So it should actually be rendered. Listen to me, O house of Israel, daughters. All the remnant of the house of Israel who have been sustained from the womb, carried along since birth. It's us who have been carrying the burden. And it is on us to deliver that burden, the children, into the truth and quit sacrificing them to this male patriarchy system where he stole the host out of her womb when he accused her. And woman began to stumble in the lie. We looked at this over and over. We have looked at these topics. So I'm sitting well back. Okay. So we get now, fully get and comprehend it, right? It's pretty straightforward. You can go in and you can watch more videos. Now, I'll say in the beginning, it took a while to get things going straight. So some of the videos are confusing because I still talk about Jesus. I came from Christianity, all right? I'm a Protestant Christian. We didn't gather like in any particular church. We just called ourselves the kind of like we were the real Christians because we had the real truth and we didn't gather to any particular church name. So I wasn't Catholic. I wasn't, and they would say, no, we're not even Protestant, but we were kind of following that line of Protestant Christianity. And us daughters were all taught God is Father and Son, and the Holy Spirit is He. They always referred to the Holy Spirit as He. Never once did I ever hear them refer to any female as the one that gave life or created or bled, and none of these things that ought to reason, you know. But because we're so beat down from the time we're born and brought up into it, we never really reason it out. We never have the wisdom to reason it out because everything is made around a man. The law is made around a man. And those people, myself included, you forget what the women have gone through over here. They have fought to get rights. They fought. And to the late 70s, didn't have rights. They did not have the rights that the men have. Most of us couldn't have bank accounts. Now, I was only 11 at the time in the late 70s. But the women weren't allowed bank accounts without the husband's head. There's your pride and arrogance to say, well, she's allowed. So there's always been this infantile creating woman as an infant, such as the little 10-year-old boy after the man dies is now head of the house. So the woman just is infantile. She's like a little girl, a child at all times. And that was one thing that I found hard to get past, despite all the years of the studying that I had done, that in the church that I went to, if he decided he was going to be part of the group, he could be 14 years old, but he was allowed to stand up and to minister to all us women and men, but the woman had to remain silent. He's got you right where he wants you, yoke after yoke after yoke on your neck that he can't carry. That's what makes you wise. That's what in the end makes the women wise enough and strong enough, because she's had to carry a burden that he never could carry. Now, I was going to look at Moloch as well, and Marduk, because Marduk is another name for Baal. And it's these other inroads through these other gods that you're going to figure out that it's a king that they made to be worshipped. So Moloch is simply based on the word melech, milk, when you look it up, and it means king, right? So God says in the Old Testament, you didn't want me, you wanted a king, and here in the indigo, he, king, God, Father, Son. All of this is to do with that he pronoun that they came and brought to the forefront in Jeremiah 23. So this is where we're at. What is the mystery of lawlessness? What is the Antichrist? Christ, they stick on a man. That's the continued building of the idol in Daniel 2. He's the feet. They got male standing. 2.3 billion Christians worshiping a man as God. Father and son. Screw you, mother and daughter. They might as well say it. That's what they're doing. And they're stealing the host out of your womb. The children have come to the birth, but there is not strength to deliver. That's what the daughter of Zion says in, is it First Kings 19, chapter 19, or Second Kings 19? I don't think it's chapter 11. But she says, and she's the one sitting there. The daughter of Zion is sitting, shaking her head. And she says, the children have come to the birth, and there is not strength to deliver. Go to Isaiah 26. We have, as it were, been with child in thy sight. We have, as it were, brought forth wind. We have not wrought a deliverance in the earth. And then they'll go, oh, Jesus brought the deliverance. There's a verse in James 1:18. It was through his, I forget it. I ain't got my Bible here. It's all female. The references there are all female. To bring you forth, to birth you as a kind of first fruits in the new creation. Well, a man don't birth. And he can bleed and bleed and bleed as much as he wants. He's not going to birth. He's not going to birth nothing. It's a female that does the birthing. Which is why daughter Zion was seeing the turning away after man was striking the woman, and he did that in a series. He did that in phases. He did that in a series of phases. We studied that in the last video. And which causes the daughter of Zion herself to shake her head and say, the children have come to the birth, but they have not wrought a deliverance. The women need to stand and stop sacrificing their children in a made-up law system by the first accusing man that has now carried over to 6.9 billion male worship. Oh no, God's he. Can't be she. Didn't say it was she. The Godhead is female first and then the male. There's a reason why it's that way in Strong's Greek 2316 if you want to go look the word up. She's the creator of all things. She is the creator of the heavens. She's the creator of life. And Father's role is to exalt that position and that law. That's how it was. And that's where we're at. We have to be able to sustain our opposition and to know why we're doing it. And it is to rescue the children, our future children, into a better life. And as such, hopefully open those gates that was closed to us. That's actually what it means to birth our children out into the heavens. It means to finally stand for the truth and stop bowing to these idols, these male idols, as if they're gods and they're not. She was struck from the beginning, from the very first Adam who became known as Baal. Father and Son, who gave life to everything, the creator. No, she is. Which is why he struck her and wanted her to stumble so he could steal the hosts out of her womb and have them taught his way and his law. And if that don't reason to you, then you don't have no wisdom, which is exactly what she says in the Old Testament. What is it? I forget how it says it, but you are vain and foolish. and you refuse to listen to the truth. She says, not my problem. I'll laugh at you in the day of your calamity. Ah, we've been in calamity. We've been in it, going through it. Don't you think it's time you stood up and delivered your children and stopped trying to deliver them through empty doctrines, but the real truth? Anyway, that's the video. So thanks for watching. Um, I hope this helps a little bit in the understanding. The idea is all there. It is all encapsulated in the little book sealed up. It does explain the Antichrist. It does explain the antinomian. It does explain the mystery of lawlessness. It does so. Anyway, so once again, thanks for watching. I hope you're all blessed with a lovely day. I hope you're all safe out there. I know there's fires burning in some areas where I do have some subscribers. I hope you're safe. I hope you're kept safe. By God, I know we can be tried and we can be tested. We've been having fires here in Canada as well. It is a testing, it is a trying. You know, people think, oh, he's trying, he's testing. You think Mother can't test us as well? Of course she can. And I find when she does, I come stronger back to my Creator, the one that formed and made me. She made him too. He just don't know it. He certainly don't want to reverence that either. Some do. You know, you can see that some do. Some are trying to learn. Like I said in a prior video, the difference between us here in the West, in the westernized countries, and those who are not westernized is at least a willingness by at least, you know, many of our men, most of our men, to have a real conversation about this whole topic. And, you know, without a willingness, like you see in Sharia law and all that foolishness coming out of the Middle East, yeah, those made up gods. You see this radicalized male, you see this radicalized beast. You do. And yet in the West, with the westernized, we do see the men, many of whom have a willingness to at least examine the topic and look at it. And when you put in play the idea that those men up on the pulpit, they do have the pride of their father Adam, to be able to look at you as a woman and to treat you in an infantile manner, as if this head has no brain in it to reason or to think with, and yet the Creator saw fit to make me in her image as someone who can give life. That's a pretty big responsibility. It's not placed with somebody with no head to think with. It's placed with somebody who is supposed to have a great amount of reasoning and ability and what's the word I'm looking, nurturing, kindness, but a willingness to view. And it's true, I have a son, and I would not think about taking his rights away, no more than I would think about taking hers away. You know, they're children that a woman, as a creator, they come out of her womb and she sees them this way because she loves them. She loves them. A father don't have that capacity. I don't care what you say. He doesn't. That's why so many men mows, I want a son, I want a son. Although, well, no, my father already had a son. He wanted a little girl. So I had an older sister. She died at 3 weeks, right? But he always wanted a little girl. But that was after he'd already had 3 sons. So it's easy to say, well, no, they want daughters, but they want them maybe after the fact, right? With a woman, and I do hear this coming from many of the boys now, the younger next generation of fathers, it doesn't matter as long as they're healthy. And that's the perspective we should be taking. I didn't want a male or female. I just wanted a healthy child. And as a mother, that's your wisdom. We see that because we carry the children in our womb, we know our body's forming, shaping that life within us. It's creating the lungs to be able to breathe. And, and it even says that your stalls will be filled with children. when you are following the way of God. And the nation of Israel, when Balaam and Balak stood on that cliff and looked out at them, they were terrified of their massive numbers because they had been blessed with so many children, because they weren't walking the path of the harlot, which was to bow to a man and to hand everything over to him. And I just will never understand these women's, yeah, I will. I do understand. Lack of willingness to be able to listen to you for what, 55 minutes? And to see if anything reasons. They won't do it. They've been brainwashed hard. We all have. That's why God refers to this handful of daughters called the first fruits that'll step away from the lie. They're called her preserved ones and her strong ones. That's why. That's why. It is not an easy climb to make. It's a very, very gradual climb. That's why you get the allegory of the she-goat. We know that he climbed to her high places, Mount Seir. Seir is a name, or Seir is for a male goat, and it's also devil when you look up the male goat, Seir. She is the Azazel. She is a female goat, the she-goat. Now you'll go, well, there's the same, she-goat's just a devil. No, she's the one mentioned in the Genesis 15:9 covenant, and she's there for a reason. All right, he's allegorized as a ram, but he's not allegorized as a goat, a male goat. The male goat is what the devil climbed to her mountain, and what did he do to he shoved her off, the scapegoat. She got shoved off of her own mountain. And when that stone cut out without hands in Daniel 2 smashes the toes on the male idol and brings it down, it says she will grow into a mountain herself. That's Mount Zion. But that is the mountain that Seir, I can't say it right, climbed to the top of her authority. Her throne of authority was to write the laws over her own creation and children, and his was to enforce it. And he tosses her off. So we get the allegorization of her being a she-goat that actually has to make the hard climb back and find the hard answers, right? That's her job in order to birth her children. And he's allegorized as a ram. A ram's nature is totally different than a she-goat in many ways. I studied the ram. So we get the she-goat there, and then we get the heifer in the Genesis 15:9 covenant. So the heifer is allegorized as the nation of Israel. Heifers often make up the nations because it's the women that gives birth to the nations. So they're your creators. They're the ones that's got to deliver the children into the truth, not the man. He can stand on that pulpit and he can preach father and son all he wants. Without mother, you've got no life. You got no life anywhere. And it says, having a form of godliness, though they deny the power thereof. She is the power they're denying. And they do it through their pride. That's what they do it through. So there's the video once again. Sorry. Thanks for watching. I hope you're all blessed with a lovely day. I hope you're all safe and sound, no matter what part of the globe you're in. That's a big hope, I know, because it's a pretty dangerous world out there, isn't it? But I do hope that you who are seeking and following the truth are found to be safe. And I do hope you all have a lovely day. And thanks for watching.